What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing a comparison of the S10 5G versus the LG V60 here. Both of these phones are actually around the same price, well under 300 bucks here, and they both have some pretty good trade-offs to choose from. So if you're in the market for an older flagship phone, I think you can't really go wrong with either of these. But let's go ahead and break down the pros and cons of owning both of these devices. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's talk about the hardware real quick. These are two pretty big phones. As you can see, the V60 is actually a little bit bigger as well, and is definitely it's a little bit heavier than the S10 as well. So they're both premium designs. They're both glass and metal phones here, so they feel extremely solid in the hand. They're also both IP68 dust and water resistant as well too. One thing you will notice on both these phones is that they do have a headphone jack and stereo speakers. Now the V60 does have a superior headphone jack. It does have a quad DAC function on here as well. So the S10 just has your standard headphone jack, which is nice, but this does have a quad DAC feature. As you can see, hi-fi quad DAC, which will allow you to be able to have your audio at just excellent quality. If you have a good pair of headphones, you could really get some really nice audio out of the V60. But for hardware, I think they're both extremely solid looking devices. Alright, so let's talk about the displays on both of these phones. So the S10 5G has a dynamic AMOLED display. It's HDR10 plus at 6.7 inches. It's actually a 1440p display, and it's 502 for the PPI Gorilla Glass 6. The V60 has a POLED display, HDR10 plus. It's 6.8 inches, and it's only a 1080p panel, 395 for the PPI, and this is Gorilla Glass 5. So basically, you have a much higher resolution on the S10 5G here, which I like the 1440p. It looks really good, especially if you watch 1440p videos and stuff like that. But the V60's display is also really good too. Now there's also a pro to the V60's display here. It does have dual screen case functionality, so you can actually turn it essentially into like two phones basically for your just extreme multitasking, I guess. If you're really into multitasking stuff like that, you can go ahead and do that on the V60's display. So that's sort of a pro with the display. As far as the punch hole situation, I actually these aren't my favorite implementations, the water drop or the double punch hole, but they're both fine. They don't really bother me at all. One thing you might like about the V60's display is it's a completely flat panel versus the S10's curved panel. So a lot of people prefer that flat panel, and it does have slimmer bezels as well too, as you can see. So I like both displays. I like the option of having a dual screen display, but I also really like the 1440p. So if you like higher resolution displays, I think you'll like the S10 a bit more. But if you see yourself using that dual screen, then the V60 is going to be a great choice for you. So let's go ahead and dive into the specs a little bit more here. So the S10 does have Android 12, One UI 4.1, Snapdragon 855, and Adreno 640. It actually has no SD card support, and then you have 256 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM. This is where the V60 kind of flat out kind of wins. So the V60 has the Android 12 Android 12 Snapdragon 865 chip, and then Adreno 650. But the V60 has micro SD card support, and the S10 does not. So you have more storage, technically on the V60 if you decide to get an SD card. It has 128 gigs on the base model and 8 gigs of RAM here. So as you can see, the Geekbench scores are better on the V60. As far as performance though, they're both very close since it's only a one generation bump. As far as opening applications and stuff like that, they both open very fast. And just as far as just bouncing through the UI here, as you're gonna see here, you can see they're both super smooth and they both keep up. I will say One UI has a bit more features and stuff to play with than the V60's, LG skin. But as you can see, they're both blazing fast here. Like, one thing with One UI is that you have Samsung desktop support on here. You also have reverse wireless charging on here, secure folders, Samsung Kids. They both have NFC actually. So I do like One UI as far as like the customization and stuff like that. It is very polished and it is packed with a bunch of features and stuff like that. So keep that into consideration. Also, one thing that people kind of forget with the V60 is you do have pen support on this phone, so you can actually buy a stylus and use it on the V60. It does have that software support, which is pretty cool. So as far as the features goes and the specs go, they're both kind of loaded with features. As far as gaming performance goes, both of these phones will do a phenomenal job with gaming. Like I said, the V60 does score higher in Geekbench and in Antutu. So, you know, just do note that if you are gaming, you know, I would go, if since they're the same price, you know, if you're like really serious about gaming, I would go for the V60. You just want a stronger chipset, especially if you're going to keep these phones for, you know, a long period of time. If you're keeping them for 2-3 years, I would just go with a stronger chip if I'm really set on gaming. But as you can see with our graphics settings, they're actually both the same. We can do HDR extreme on both of these phones, even up to Ultra HD if we desire to. So one cool thing about the V60's display, one cool thing about the V60 is that the dual screen case does work with gaming. So games like Asphalt, PUBG, like with PUBG for example, the other screen would show the map, which I think is pretty cool. So that could be like also another gaming perk for you. But gaming performance is like super buttery smooth. I do have gaming tests on the V60. I'm gonna put one out for the S10 5G. But just take my word for it. You can't really go wrong, you know, with both of these phones for gaming. But like I said, I choose the V60 for gaming. Both of these phones have amazing sounding stereo speakers, so I'm curious to see which one sounds the best. We'll go ahead and start with the S10. Yo, that is like crazy. So, believe it or not, the S10 5G speakers, they are louder than the V60. Noticeably louder. Yeah, I could just feel like the vibration way harder off the table than with the V60. Yeah, it's not like it's just like crazy better than the V60 as far as like the bass and overall quality, but it is louder. So I have to give it that. It's louder and it's still keeping its clarity, which is pretty amazing. The top speaker is just better than the top speaker on the V60. Man, this must be Samsung's best speaker because I haven't had a Samsung phone with as good as speakers as this, and I have all the flagships. So that's pretty interesting. I think this is literally the best speaker that Samsung's made, which is random. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about some other things. Let's go ahead and talk about the fingerprint scanner. The fingerprint scanner on the S10 is way better. And also, there's no face unlock for the V60, which I hate. So the fingerprint scanner on here is not bad. It's just, it doesn't feel as fast as the S10, or as smooth, I guess. Which is fine. I don't have an issue with the V60s, but this has a smoother one and it has face unlock, so I really appreciate the face unlock on here. Like I said, they both have NFC, so that's all set there. Let's go ahead and actually talk about the cameras. So the S10 5G does have a triple camera setup. It's got a 12 megapixel standard. It's got a 12 megapixel ultra wide or telephoto, excuse me, and then it's got a 16 megapixel ultra wide with a 0.3 depth sensor. It shoots in 4K 60 on the front and back, and then it's got a 10 megapixel selfie cam also with another depth sensor. The V60 does have a 64 megapixel standard, a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and a 0.3 depth sensor. It actually shoots in 8K, and then you have a 10 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 30. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys these side-by-side stills. Me personally, I'll just tell you which camera I prefer. I think the V60 takes much better photos. I just prefer the shots. It takes better low light shots to me as well too, and you'll see that. As far as video, I thought video was really solid on both of these phones. But as far as cameras, for me personally, I think the V60 has the better camera. It's got a higher resolution lens as well too. So you guys get more detailed shots, especially with the main lens. So you guys check out the photos. Let me know what you guys think. Here's a video on the LG V60. We're at 1x. Two X, and then our 0.5. Here's the video on the S10 5G. Point 5. So lastly, let's go ahead and discuss battery life. Which phone has the better battery? And I would say easily the V60. Even though it's very close, both these phones have really good battery life. The V60 also has superior standby time as well too. Much better standby time. So it's got a 5,000 milliamp battery with wireless charging. And you do have fast charging, but it's not as fast, I believe, as the S10. This has 25 watt fast charging. This has a 4,500 milliamp battery, so it's a slightly smaller battery. And then you have your reverse wireless charging, which the V60 does not have. So that's also something that could be a pro for you. So yeah, so as far as battery life, both of these phones actually have great battery life, and they both have good standby time. But the V60 is just a superior in terms of screen on time and standby time. So that's pretty much it, guys. So I really like both of these phones. You can't really go wrong. I think the main highlight with these older Samsung phones is obviously the software with One UI. I think it's really well polished, tons of features. This has a 1440p display on here as well too, and I just really like this phone, the body style, the way it looks. But I think the V60 just packs more power. It's got SD card support. It's also got dual screen case. It's got a better headphone jack. I think the cameras are better and better battery life. So I think the V60 is the better phone here. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.